Good evening, viewers. I am Jayesh Ranjan. I work for the government in Telangana and look after the subjects of information technology and industries. It's a matter of great happiness to welcome all of you to the second of our cloud chats in the series of good governance for sustainable development. This is a very interesting series in the sense that the person who is the guest today will be the host for the next edition. So, which obviously implies that I was the guest in the last edition, which was hosted by the founder of BuzzOnEarth Media, Gayatri Chauhan. And as promised, I'm the host today. And hopefully my guest will be the host in the next edition of that series. But before I introduce the guest for today's chat, let me very quickly, to those of you who are not familiar, tell you a little bit about BuzzOnEarth Media. So BuzzOnEarth Media is the leading media hub dedicated to mainstreaming sustainability, wellness, and coexistence. They are a one-stop shop for sustainability stories, innovations, thought leadership, and of course, eco-friendly brands. They have a very wide reach. They have audiences in 190 plus countries, more than 7,800 plus cities, and these numbers are growing every day. And they are defining sustainability edge as the new growth imperative. BuzzOnEarth is also rated among the top 10 sustainability YouTube channels globally, and #1 from India for the year 2020. Similarly, BuzzOnEarth also ranks in top 30 sustainability blogs in a global listing by FeedSpot rating. So very happy that from Her Majesty's Government of the UK, Dr. Andrew Fleming is a very senior foreign and Commonwealth officers diplomat who is posted in Hyderabad as the Deputy High Commissioner. He has already completed 2 years in his tenure, and in this 2 years he has taken a very keen interest in understanding the true character of India, people in India, the governance structures in India, and so on and so forth. Normally, many of you would have heard of them and read of them. When the imperial rule was there, lots of British officers, we used to use the phrase that they have turned native. For instance, James Kirkpatrick, who was the part of the British government, he was the resident here in Hyderabad. People tell him, William Dalrymple in his book, The White Mughals, has written that he had turned native, which means that he used to identify himself by wearing local dresses, by participating in local social and cultural events, and even speaking the local language. So Andrew is very close to that. He wears local clothes, that loose kurta pajama. He knows more about the heritage spots of Hyderabad city than even most of us would do. And I don't think he's still able to speak the language, but short of that, everything else which will define someone as having gone native applies to Andrew. So I'm very happy, Dr. Andrew Fleming, that you are our guest today. And I'm sorry, I think Andrew is having some technical difficulties. He disappeared a while ago, but I see that he has disappeared again. But nevertheless, let us, I'm sure he'll be able to overcome this problem, and he'll be with us in a very short time. Let me till then explain to you about this entire series of this chat series that we are having, which we have titled Good Governance for Sustainable Development. Now, as I said, I was the guest in the last edition, the first of the series, where Gayatri had asked some very perceptive and very insightful questions on the role of governance. And of course, I will be asking the same questions to Andrew, most of them today. So you will also understand when the question answer begins on the essence behind or the spirit behind that particular line of questioning. But myself, Gayatri, and I'm sure Andrew today, as will be reflected later in his answers, we are all very clear in our mind that governance matters quite a lot. When we have to promote sustainability agenda, when we have to talk about SDGs, we have to ensure that we take people together in a partnership mode in implementing sustainability agenda. Governance matters quite a lot. And typically in emerging countries, in developing countries, there are lots of governance deficits. People are not so enamored of their governments, while some people may be fond of the governments, but against those few, there are many more who are critical of the government, who see government as a body of people who just have their own vested interests in mind. So given this kind of a macro culture, how do you ensure that we still don't lose track of our governance, of our sustainable priorities, despite those challenges, despite those loopholes in governance systems? And last time when I was the guest, I had given lots of examples from the state of Telangana. As I mentioned when I introduced myself, I am a civil servant working in the state of Telangana. I'm a part of the government here in Telangana, and I had spoken quite a lot on how this trust deficit exists between a common person and the government, and what can be done to do away with the trust deficit, and how can we ensure that we genuinely bring all the stakeholders center stage. So how do you in that case do what is called a bottoms-up planning, and how do we ensure that the stakeholders interests are factored in when we take up sustainability programs? So I had given lots of examples last time about our water focus program. So Telangana, for example, is the first state in the country which is providing piped drinking water to every home. No other Indian state can claim today that every home you can turn the tap and you will start getting water. So that is to the credit of Telangana government. And then I recall Gayatri had asked me a follow-up question that you are supplying water, but where is that water coming from? So I had given also another interesting case study on how we are able to rejuvenate thousands of tanks. And I recall telling Gayatri that in olden days when Hyderabad, when Telangana was ruled by Kakatiya rulers, we had 45,000 plus tanks, which are now being rejuvenated under the Mission Kakatiya project. So governance therefore is at the core of all these people-centric initiatives. Now, I'm glad that Dr. Andrew Fleming is back. Andrew, in your absence, I have introduced you, and let me confirm to you that I have said all the nice things that need to be said about you. So you should not worry that behind your back, I said something nasty. I did not do at all. But I did tell them that you are a person who has understood the local realities, the local context, from a very insider kind of perspective. I have seen so many diplomats who stay aloof and they watch everything from a non-participatory observer's standpoint, but you are very different. You want to participate and get into an insider's perspective, and then only you make your judgments. So we'll straight away get into the Q&A part, Andrew. And since you represent Her Majesty's government in India, I would like to ask you as the first question on how can, in your opinion, the UK and India be better collaborators in driving key environmental initiatives globally and towards achieving the sustainable development goals. So what do you think are the best opportunities and best mechanisms for UK and India to collaborate in promoting sustainability agenda?
Thank you very much, Jayesh, and thank you for choosing me out of the many friends you have all over the world that you could have picked. I feel very humbled and very honoured by this invitation, and the questions have given me quite some homework, as if it hasn't been too busy at this time to think about. So thank you for that. Clearly, apart from tackling the current pandemic, which is a priority for every government in the world, for my government, the upcoming COP26, which will be hosted now in November of next year in Scotland, in Glasgow, is our biggest priority. And I think that is, I think that's really an exciting opportunity for us to work with countries like India and indeed many others around the world. And probably India are one of the countries that we are most closely aligned to in thinking about COP and thinking about the challenges. You know, we've already been doing a number of events here in Hyderabad. I think you've at least seen some of the activity that we've kicked off since February, which is really exciting. And I think that this is something that we're going to continue to work and build on over the next 15 months up until that COP takes place. Like I say, it's our biggest priority, and COP can only be a success if we have strong and effective partnerships and strong and effective networks. And the UK-India partnership is really, really important in that sense. There's an opportunity for enhanced ambition around the renewable sector, around a new long-term strategy for lower carbon transition, with a time frame to achieve net zero targets, ambitious net zero targets in cities, states, and countries, both ours and yours, and many others, of course, around the world, for an energy transition as well. A transition where active engagement, real economic action campaigns on energy transition, energy efficiency, and clean transport can make a massive difference. A difference to the air that we live and we breathe. And I think, you know, here in India, just as much as in my own country, my own capital, London, the quality of air pollution has deteriorated hugely. And that's something that has to be turned around in those cities and in many others. And there's a lot of expertise and a lot of innovation that can help in trying to achieve some of this. And India also, in negotiations, I think India plays a constructive voice in the COP movement. I believe that there's an opportunity to agree a real package of measures with an important leader in South Asia, but more important, a leader that's expected much more on a global platform. You know, it's a case of working together in that on areas like carbon markets and transition from the clean development mechanism. These are areas that I think we have an opportunity to collaborate and work on. But, you know, it's 15 months away. There's actually a relatively small group of people that really understand what the climate agenda is about and what it means at the moment. And one of the biggest challenges, one of the reasons, like you say, I like to get out and meet people and speak to people, is really connecting and reaching people on the ground. Going to school, going to speak to young people, going in and engaging with corporates. And I've met you at conferences where you've been doing exactly the same thing. So I know that we have a similar mind, and getting all of these people to win over their hearts and minds and actually make small changes, small differences in the way they operate, the way that they do things, which collectively can make a huge change and a better change for our planet. So I think, you know, the opportunities are huge. The partnership with countries like India are critical. And if we get it right, and I believe that together we can, I know that there are some Indian experts already very much closely collaborating with the chair in the preparation for this point, then, you know, I think, you know, there can be an exciting story to be told. But as far as I'm concerned, here in Hyderabad, we commit to do at least one event pre-COP a month up until that takes place on a range of different issues. We've identified 6 different people from the community who I think stand out for their work at different pillars of what people in India see as important when they talk about climate change. Things like sustainable living, like cleaner water, like energy, and so on. And we're working with each of those to formulate an action plan. And as we get closer to COP, we want to bring together some of the work that these individuals are trying to do, and then also link it in with some of the bigger global objectives attached to COP, educating people and engaging people all the way.
Yes, Andrew. So this is a very interesting area of looking at collaboration possibilities, renewable, and I'm glad that as a part of the next COP event, you are planning some run-up events in Hyderabad as well. You made a very important point. You mentioned that you like to get into the lives of the people so that you are able to understand their mindset and maybe explain to them what's the importance of these issues. Actually, for climate change as well, we have seen this, and I'm sure our viewers know about this. A large majority of people, surveys after surveys, polls after polls have found this. They found this in the US, in other countries, in India also. People generally hold two views. One view is that this problem is too remote. I'm not going to confront this problem in my lifetime. A climate change problem and sea levels rising and the ice caps melting. It may happen, but it is not going to happen in my lifetime. It is too remote an issue, so I should not be worried too much about it. And the second typical mindset is that even if it is not that remote, even if it is immediate, there is very little I can do. I mean, I as an individual am too insignificant to make any difference in this. It is a matter which national governments, international governments have to handle, and there is hardly anything which is there that I can influence. So I'm sure you also agree that neither of these viewpoints, the one that it is too remote and second I am too insignificant to do anything, are actually valid perspectives. But the reality is that millions of people hold these beliefs, hold these kind of mindsets. So what, now that you have spent 2 years in India, you have seen life from the people's lens. What do you think needs to be done? In UK also, there would be many skeptics. So how do you convert or win over these kind of skeptics?
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a really important question, Jayesh. How do you do that? And actually, you've been enjoying your time with me because it's actually now 3 years. So time has flown by that I've been here in India. And before I came to India, I was in Nigeria. And I mentioned that I was in Nigeria because when I was there, there was a beautiful reservoir that I used to go and visit. And one day I went to the reservoir with a friend and we sat there and we noticed a whole load of pollution that had come into the reservoir, both in terms of the water had foamed up and also in terms of waste, different waste items. Both of us were very shocked by this, and we decided the next week that we'd do something about it, because if we didn't do something about it, who would? That was our view, and we managed to find about 100 friends over the week, thanks to the power of social media. And we went back the next week and we tried to clear that up. And then we wondered about the cause and so on, and we spoke to some local people and we understood that it came from a settlement further up the hill with the water that fed into the reservoir. So then we went there and tried to start educating the people in there not to throw their litter and rubbish and their detergents and other things into the water. And so that began the foundation of an NGO called Stop Don't Drop, for which I was proud to be a co-founder. And I talk about this because it's an example of exactly what you say about what I can't do anything by myself. It must always be someone else. Well, if everybody has that attitude, then, we're going to get nowhere. And I'm very heartened, actually, in my 2 or 3, you've got me saying 2 now, but 3 years in India. I'm very heartened, particularly from speaking to youth in this country, how many young people really are in tune with the environment. It's far more that age group than probably, if I can say, people in our age group that are engaged and are worried about the environment and really do understand the issues and can have a very good conversation. And it's meeting these young people that really does inspire me. And I often tell the story I've just told about my time in Nigeria and setting up this NGO, which was originally about not throwing away plastic and other types of waste, and transitioned into something that did a lot more on recycling and even helping fund education by through recycling for children in impoverished communities in Nigeria. As for the Not in My Lifetime Brigade, yes, they're there too. When I go on my Twitter and talk about in climate change issues, I often get trolled, and there's plenty of trolls that will attack anybody that posts something which says climate change is real, hashtag, or such thing. You know, I think these people do need to be challenged. I don't know that social media is always the best place to do it, but if I'm in a room and I talk to people, I think it's much easier. I mean, you know, the questions to ask ultimately, you know, do you have a family? How many children do you have? Do you have grandchildren? Or what about their future? What about that? Because if you carry on by this trajectory, what world are we going to have left? The damage that's being done day by day is getting worse and worse. And unless it's turned around, you know, now is the time to act. Not in 5 or 10 years or when you've passed away and you think it's a problem for your family. You love your family and you sacrifice everything for them. So why is your position on this so different? This is the kind of challenge that I find is probably the most effective in having a conversation to try and get somebody to think about it from a different perspective. But every individual needs a slightly different approach. And I think, you know, the versatility of how you engage different people is also really important. And it's important to listen and put yourself in that person's position and really understand where they are coming from. Why do they think like they do? Is it because they're just not educated? Is it because they have been prejudiced by something they've read or heard or been told by somebody in a powerful position, possibly someone with a vested interests? Any of these things. So, you know, that's really how I would go about engaging. But engaging youth is the most fulfilling for me, and that's where I get most of my energy from, if I'm honest.
Yeah, very, very interesting, Andrew. In fact, made a very good point that instead of dismissing such skeptics, you have to understand where that position is coming from and then gradually work towards changing that. Very, very interesting point. Andrew, you also spoke about your stint earlier in Nigeria, and I guess you had also worked in Ghana before going to Nigeria.
And so, Uganda.
Yes, Uganda. So,
yeah.
Yes. So India and these countries are all what are called collectively emerging economies or developing countries, etc. And from the developed world's perspective, let us say the UK or the rest of Europe or US, etc., there is a very common observation and a common criticism that governance standards in these countries are not the best. And this chat series that we are participating in now, as you know, this is titled Good Governance for Sustainable Development. So what are the observations that you have about Nigeria, Uganda, and India now? Is there a governance issue because of which we are not able to move as fast as we should have on sustainability, on sustainable development, even renewables, climate change, recycling, etc.? Is there some governance gaps that you notice consistently in these countries, which is not there so much in, let us say, your own country, and you would like to point it out as a very important pre-requirement? Unless you fix that, you will not be able to move up in the agenda. Is there anything that you notice?
Okay. That's a huge question, almost worthy of an hour on its own if you want to really talk about it in detail. I mean, you know, when you talk about governance, people first of all think about the type of government and the type of country you have. And of course, there's a lot of similarity between Nigeria being the largest democracy in Africa in terms of its number of people, and India being the largest democracy, well, not only in Asia, but in the world. And the logistics of holding elections in both those countries are huge. When I was in Ghana, as when I was in Nigeria as well, I observed an organized observation of elections. And you know, the challenges of doing that exposed me to things that I perhaps never thought about before. And also because of the roles I had, I mean, in Nigeria, I led on anti-corruption. And corruption is one of the most corrosive things when you come to talk about governance and good governance. If you have a manifestly corrupt society, it's very, very difficult to make progress because of the different vested interests that exist, the conflicts, and ultimately, at a certain level, the door will be closed to make the kind of progress you may want to see, because something else more important to one or a very small minority of people will take priority over anything that might be better for the common good. And I guess I've seen many examples of that in many parts of the world, to be honest. I've been now to 115 countries, and I can't say that all of the so-called developed countries have anything like a perfect record, but yes, in Nigeria, yes, in Ghana, yes, in Uganda, and you know, equally, yes, here, there are particular challenges. If you're talking about India, of course, you're not talking about one country. You can't. You have 29 states in a huge country, and the difference in governance that I've observed even between the states where I've had a chance to interact, or I have colleagues who are interacting closely, you know, varies a lot as well. And I think everywhere you go, you can find good practice and you can find bad practice. What makes good governance for me? Protection of democratic values, a rule of law. Rule of law was definitely a challenge in a number of the Nigerian states, but that's not a problem that's unique to Nigeria by any means. Access to justice is another area which is really important. And again, the justice system here in India, as well as in Nigeria, as well as in Ghana, we did a lot of work as the UK in trying to help support in those West African countries. And I know that even here, cases get stuck sometimes for a very long time. That is definitely a challenge. Social and economic empowerment is another huge area. I think, you know, if you're going to have good governance structures, those governance structures need to be gender balanced, or as much gender balanced as possible. And unfortunately, again, a trend that I observe in Nigeria, and a trend that I think is also widely common here in India, is that those that are involved in those structures now are predominantly male. And even when women are there, often their voice is not heard at the same level. They don't have the same opportunity to speak up. So if you want to have better governance structures, producing better policies, and delivering what is best for the people, you need to achieve more gender parity, which means investing in women and empowering women to take more of a role in this space. I mean, I think it's great that in India we see that in the lower level of politics there are reserved seats for women. But when you get to MLA level and above, you know, you only have to look at the percentages. I don't have to say anything. In Nigeria, the percentages were even worse. You know, I was really, really sad. One day I spent a long time with a woman minister, one of, I think, only two while I was serving there. And I said, you know, how do you cope in what is almost an exclusively male environment? And she says, from when I get up in the morning to when I go to bed at night, every interaction, everything I do everything I speak, everything I think, I have to do it from the perspective of a man. Otherwise, I can't survive. And that in many ways was a disheartening thing to hear, other than the fact that she was actually willing to share that, and actually willing to talk to other women and try and say, this is the extent of the problem we have and the basis from which we have to grow. And in India, in Nigeria, in Ghana, and other countries, I have to say that I have met individuals that are massively inspiring, fantastic leaders, both women and men. I always leave those countries with the hope in my heart that those people are going to get more of an opportunity to do it. In some cases, I've seen that they have. In other cases, sadly not.
Yeah. So, Andrew, very comprehensive answer, and 3 points which I can summarize about the issues of governance, good governance, governance deficit. You have spoken about corruption. You have also spoken about social and economic empowerment, and you have spoken about gender. We will come back to the topic of gender maybe later if we have some time left. But I wanted to ask another follow-up question. So you have identified all these governance deficits, etc. And of course, one is to continue to work on these deficits, ensure that we are able to overcome some of these challenges. But since there is a sense of urgency also in pushing the sustainability agenda, would you feel that it is better the sustainability champion come from non-government actors? For example, they are civil society organizations, NGOs, community leaders, academicians, these kind of people. Would you prefer that these kind of people lead the push towards sustainability, or you would still prefer that the government leads it and maybe carries along all these other partners as well? What would you prefer as your model of continuing sustainability related work?
Where something, Jayesh, has worked well, in my view, it has to be a multi-agency approach, and not just one on paper, but one that is actually lived out in the principles. So it has to be a collection of those people. If a civil society organization tries to achieve something and do something, at a certain point it will be blocked by the government. If a government tries to do something, it might impose it, but it won't win the hearts and the minds of the people. That's something that the civil society organization or the NGO, for example, is in a far better place to do if it's good at what it's doing. So it has to be a multi-agency response if you're going to really achieve results on whatever your target and objective might be. And it has to really be a collection of people that have proven and demonstrated themselves to really understand up on the issue. One of the other blights that I've come across in a number of countries I've worked is how people pick up appointments because of their relationship with a particular minister or a particular official. It can be absolutely disastrous when these people are added into the equation, perhaps in an area of some influence, and actually either don't care about the focus of what they're there to do, or worse still, don't even believe in it at all. So a proper multi-agency joined up approach, usually if you have a good leader, if you have a good minister who understands his topic and really believes in that, I don't think you can want for anything better. In Nigeria, we managed to work with people and get Nigeria to join the Open Government Partnership, which is a body that fights against corruption and gets countries from around the world to work together in groupings. And we got Nigeria, a country who had never entertained that idea, to sign up, join, and become an active member of the Open Government Partnership, and they continue to be an active member to this day, according to the contacts that I deal with. And that was achieved by doing exactly what I've said, working together in that collaborative way. I can give exactly the same example as some of the anti-trafficking work I led when I was working in Ghana. And obviously there are many other examples. It's that approach for me that would always be my favorite approach. And of course, in some countries where the democracy isn't what we enjoy here in India or in Nigeria, it's a more complicated solution. But still, it requires more than one kind of person to achieve progress.
Wonderful, wonderful, Andrew. So I personally endorse your view that it has to be a partnership model. There are certain things which the government can achieve much better, but there are certain other things which it cannot. So it should recognize that and then give space to other partners like civil society, organizations, NGOs, academicians, community leaders, and so on and so forth. So Andrew, moving away from India and Nigeria and Ghana, tell us something about the UK experience. What are the governance structures in UK? Is there a ministry looking after sustainability, or is it an agenda across ministries? And how do you convert that agenda into specific programs? What is the role of the national government? What is the role of the local governments? How does the governance structure and governance programs flow in the UK related to energy, sustainability, etc.?
It's a long time, Jayesh, since I've worked in the UK. I haven't even worked there under this current administration. So I'm not sure I'm the best person to answer the question. Up until yesterday, in terms of trying to deliver on development goals globally, we had the Department for International Development. Today, that department has merged with my former department, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, to become the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, which is a new combination of two. And as you probably know, 0.7% of our GDP is tied up for international aid in the poorest nations of the world. Which is something that personally I'm very proud of, and it's something that largely the FID projects were funded by. Now it's been merged in with the Foreign Office. What the opportunity provides, hopefully, is to fuse together those project and delivery skills that are well known within the FID. As well as some of the more economically skilled and other colleagues that are there, along with the political and some of the other skills that sit within the Foreign Office, so that we have one office that's even more holistic, even more joined up, and hopefully can achieve even better in terms of helping lead in solving some of the problems that exist around the world. So that's very much the ambition. But it doesn't just stop with those two departments. It is very much the case that a number of other departments across the government have a stake and an interest in certain pillars of activity. We collaborate and we work with them in many countries around the world. We have people from offices on our platform. Here in Nigeria, if I'm not wrong, 17 different government departments and agencies are represented. Even in Hyderabad, as of now, we have 4 different government departments and agencies represented among our small office. So it gives you an idea of how joined up and collective a lot of this thinking and ideas will be. The department responsible for the environment is, of course, a key partner in working on COP, just by way of an example. But I think, one of the things that I do see here is relevant to mention is that there is a lot of bringing the right people from different departments together to discuss common issues. I think that's something that my government and in my country has a history of doing well. And in my time as a civil servant, which is well over 30 years now, I've definitely seen it improve and get better. And there are many, many meetings every week on a whole range of different issues with an international flavour as well as domestically that are doing exactly that. Even, you know, in the wake of the pandemic, that activity continues as we're very much doing virtually, but effectively.
Sure, Andrew, good. So we get some understanding about how it flows in the UK government system. I had mentioned that we'll touch upon the topic of gender once again, and I would like to raise that now. We are in the last 15 minutes of our conversation. So I would like to ask you about the importance of having gender balanced or a gender nuanced approach to sustainability, sustainable development. And as you know, India and perhaps Nigeria, Ghana, Uganda, etc., because these are highly patriarchal societies, the importance and the kind of space they need to give for women in these kind of dialogues, conversations, leadership, action, that is missing. In India also, of course, things have changed, but till the recent past, if you would notice women in responsible positions, you can immediately make out that she has risen only because of her family influence and background and so on and so forth. So what does one do? The question is like this, that if you have a legacy of a very strong patriarchal society and gender views are not going to change over a long period of time, yet since we all agree that participation of women and actually equal participation of women, because most of the sustainability issues concern them and impact them directly, is also very, very important. So how does one figure the way out? We are in a society that pulls down women, but it is important for women to be in leadership positions in the front lines, so to say. So how do you maneuver your way? How do you ensure that we are able to have a sustainable solution to the sustainability agenda by bringing women in the forefront?
It's a very good question, and I don't think there is one answer, because I think depending on the country, the dynamics of that country, the approach may be actually different. And even going further in a country like India, which is so vast, even down to the state level, there may be different approaches in different parts. But it is a really important question, and it's an issue that really matters to me. Achieving gender parity is absolutely fundamental for the future of our world, I believe, for some of the reasons I've touched on already. But to reiterate, you know, if women have equal equity, decisions will be made that really do benefit all around us. In very, very simple terms, I can put it that way, rather than giving you a long lecture on the topic. And I think, you know, you need to build on where women have achieved success in one way, and demonstrate the positivity. One of the challenges that we've seen in my life, I guess, is to get more women in business, more women in boardrooms. And the proportion of top companies in the UK where they have achieved gender parity or approached gender parity in the boardroom has increased markedly in my life. And unsurprisingly to me, those countries which have made that move are overall the more successful of all of the countries listed on our London Stock Exchange, because they've recognised the great advantage. In the diplomatic service, you know, which in 1973, if you got married, you had to resign, believe it or not. Now we have women diplomats in many countries, in China, in the US, representing us at the UN, and even now the first time we have a US woman ambassador as well serving. And there's a whole list of other countries, even in the last 5 years, where we have managed to get women ambassadors and women high commissioners for the first time. We're going to be appointing a new woman or man, I don't know, but we're going to be appointing a new high commissioner to India in the next few weeks, and we're waiting to see. I'm not going to say who it will be, if it will be a man or a woman, but what we do as an office now is we gender-proof and assure all of our job applications so that the language is in a ensuring the language is in a gender-neutral format, and that's another small way in which you can encourage applications from women as much as from men. These are things you can do. I'm going to be leaving next year, and I've just done that exercise in the hope that I can attract more female candidates to my post. There's never been a female Deputy High Commissioner serving in India. So I think, bringing these kind of examples here and talking to people here is one of the things that I've done, just as I've done in Nigeria. And whenever I come across an inspiring women-led group, I will give them a platform. I will try to give them that little bit more of a voice so that they can be heard. I might call in a favor and get them featured in the paper or on the TV or whatever might help them, and it's the same thing that I would try to do with powerful women-led groups here, or indeed with individual women who I think are high potential. We've just identified our Chevening scholars. You know the Chevening program, Jayesh, well, others may not, but if you Google chevening.org, chevening.org, you can find it easily. You will see that we have a whole load of fellowships and scholarships to go to the UK, and we've just selected a woman, Patricia, to be studying in the UK this year on climate change. And I know that she'll come back and be a powerful voice in that area of climate change in the future. And encouraging her to apply for that scholarship is inspired by seeing what she's done, going into schools, being able to go to the Antarctic and coming back and telling the experiences of that. So it's identifying individual women that can make a difference and trying to support them to progress their gene. And it's very much like climate change. I think us men have a duty to do that as much as we possibly can in our work. And I've seen that you've done very much that, Jayesh, too. And this is one of the reasons perhaps we have the friendship that we do.
Yes, Andrew. And in fact, for the benefit of the viewers, I would like to share this. Andrew has a practice of inviting a woman, a student actually, who can become the Deputy High Commissioner for a day. And he has been doing it for the last 2 years. I know that the application process for this year has commenced. And imagine, so a girl can aspire to be the Deputy High Commissioner for a day. And I know of the previous 2 years, Deputy High Commissioners of the day, they had a packed day-long itinerary. They had to attend all possible events which a Deputy High Commissioner would have attended, and they have official positions and so on and so forth. So how empowering it is for those people who got this chance, etc. Andrew, we are coming close to the end of our chat, but I can't resist asking a COVID-related question, given the times that we are in. This is something which was asked to me also by Gayatri last time. And while I was not prepared for this question, I gave some glib answer, but subsequently it got me thinking. And I'm going to ask you also on your view. So COVID, as we see all around us every day, is creating a major disruption in practically every aspect of our life, be it businesses, be it our social relationships, even education, healthcare, the lives of rich people, poor people. Everyone is getting impacted impacted by COVID in some form or the other. What is your assessment of the impact of COVID on this entire sustainability movement? Do you think the movement will take a backseat because our priorities will change, economic recovery, revival? India, I'm sure you read about it, it came a day before, how our GDP has shrunk by 54% in the last one quarter. So do you think the focus will now be on rapid economic development, accelerated economic recovery? Will SDGs take a backseat, or this is the right time actually to renew our commitment to sustainability and ensure that a new model comes out globally in other countries, in India, on ensuring that every step that we take from now onwards has a very strong element of sustainability in it. So what is the COVID thinking at this point in time?
Right. Thank you. I mean, COVID has been the biggest shock to the world in nearly all of our, definitely our lifetime. And now the majority of people with World War II haven't been as long ago as it is. And it's affected everybody quite deeply. Economically, it is, quite devastating. And I think the poorer you are, the worse it is. And I also think it's disproportionately also devastating from a gender angle as well. If you look at many of the examples, the increases of domestic violence and other factors that women have to deal with as a result of COVID all over the world. And recovery from that is the #1 priority. And I've mentioned, even above for the UK, recovering from COVID is our #1 priority. This will be replicated in just about every other country that has been hit by this pandemic. I think it provides an opportunity, and what the UK government is talking about, and what I think is the right message, is about building back better. And this doesn't only talk about building back better in your country; it means building back better globally. We have all learned from this experience. I think many people have had a lesson in compassion and humility during the COVID times. We've seen people in a different way. We've all been touched by the images of the migrants who have had to move across India and indeed many other parts of the world as well, as a result of COVID, and some of the most isolated people in any society. The outpouring of individuals that have wanted to help and support that has actually in some ways been quite touching, as much as some of the other stories have been very much harrowing. But I feel that there's more people that think about others. Even in my workplace, I've seen how people actually are caring and asking about mental health and other issues that they would never have done before about their colleagues, about their welfare. So that's one side of it. And the economic side is equally important. We have to reboot the economy in all of our countries, and not only in our countries. We have to keep global trade moving, and trade and investment sits at the heart of the UK and India relationship. And there's a chance, I think, for that trade policy to be reshaped, not least with the fact that the UK has now left the EU, and we will be able to negotiate direct agreements. And I think, in light of the experience we've had, in light of the wonderful support the UK have had from India during the COVID times and being able to access, I think it's 2.8 million packets of paracetamol and 12 million surgical masks, and a whole array of other statistics. I think the goodwill that's coming out of that is already translated. When the last JETCO, that's the Joint Economic and Trade Council meeting place took place just last month. The joint communique that came out of that was, I think, one of the most positive and upbeat that I've seen for some time, and I really feel that there is potential to do more. And India definitely has been put on the map of many people in the UK in terms of the opportunities in the life sciences and healthcare sectors, but also by extension in a number of other sectors too. So, you know, I'm a glass half full rather than a glass half empty person. I think, you know, it's a chance to do things differently, to do things better, to build stronger relationships, better opportunities, both at the personal level, but also globally with our trading partners, and also in how we give and support those who are less fortunate. You know, and I know also that India has been doing a lot of work in the Indian Ocean region as well, in terms of its own aid and support to countries where there's a greater need. So let me hope that that will be the case. I'm sure you will share that view.
Thank you, Andrew. You have been extremely candid and shared lots of very positive experiences with us. So if I look back at what all you said, you of course very candidly pointed out some of the prerequisites or important governance requirements which will promote sustainable development. You spoke about how if we have to work on a partnership, how we have to get into the community, live with them, learn from them, and then gradually help them understand the worldview from a more futuristic position. How do you create a vision in them? You also spoke about the importance of having a very strong gender-focused lens. You gave examples of good things which have happened in India. You spoke about your work in Nigeria, Ghana, etc. on plastic waste, how it got converted to a small initiative to a large movement. And you, of course, spoke about the governance structures in the UK and how it is possible to take up multiple collaborations between UK and India to jointly support our mutual interests in making the world a better place for everyone. So it was fascinating talking to you, Andrew, as ever. And of course, 2 weeks from now, you will be playing the host, and I'm sure you would have chosen who you would be. But we will leave that at this point as a mystery. Closer to the date, this announcement will come. But once again, on behalf of BuzzOnEarth Media, grateful to you, Andrew, for spending almost an hour with us in sharing your insights with all our viewers. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, viewers, for being with us. This will be available on YouTube. You can watch the recorded version later as well. And you post your comments and thoughts if possible. Andrea and I will try to respond to your feedback on the YouTube link and also on the BuzzOnEarth's Facebook page. So with this, we come to an end of today's chat series. Hope that you will all be able to join us again after 2 weeks. Bye-bye and good evening.
Thank you, Jayesh. Thank you, everybody. See you in a couple of weeks.